Okay, so in this video, this is part 3 of our DNS Server Lab. This is the last part. We're going to create a batch script that automatically changes those DNS settings. So if you remember in part 1, we set up a DNS server on here, and we also set up an IIS server on here. And then also in part 1, we manually connected. We went here, we went to open the network and sharing settings, went to change adapter settings, went to properties, TCP/IP v4, and we made sure that this address right here was the IP address of this machine right there. Then in part 2, we created like a mini website on our IIS server, which is being hosted on here. And then we modified a forward lookup address. We created a zone called google.com. And so we made it so that anyone who is connected to this DNS server, whenever they go to google.com, um, rather than it going to actually google.com, it goes to this address right here. And then I think we also set up DNS mgmt.m. And then we also set up a CNAME on here. I'm pretty sure we set up a CNAME on here so that if you go to www.google.com, it should also take you to this Hello World website. Okay, but the rest of the internet right here, like if I go to yahoo.com or whatever, the rest of the website or the rest of the internet totally works. So it's just this, I open up Internet Explorer, obviously MSN works right here. But then if I like type in Google and I search for google.com, I do like a Bing search, click on Google, it's not going to take me to google.com. It's actually going to take me, whoops, I'll do a Bing search right there. No, it's not going to take me to Google. It's going to take me back to, my Hello World. So, and again, like I discussed in part 2, this wasn't a program that got installed. If you're like, this isn't something, because in the host file lab, if you remember, Firefox started to detect and was like, hey, something looks weird with your computer, or, there was virus detection going off saying, hey, something's not quite right here. It's just totally working, but obviously we're not on Google's website. So, how do we set up a batch script to do that? Well, on the desktop here, I'm going to go New, and I'm going to go to Text Document, and I'm going to type in dns.bat. And oh, by the way, if when you go to google.com and it's not going to your number one, make sure that there's no slash in there. But when you go to google.com, if it's not going to this website, just something really quick to check. Go to options in here, double check that you clear out the data of your cookies. Make sure you clear out your history. Give this server or give this machine a restart. That should help you. Okay, so I have this on here. I'm going to go ahead and open up File Explorer. I'm going to organize, folder and search options, view, and then let's uncheck this hide extensions for known file types. So we can see right now this is a .txt. We want this to be .bat only. So we're going to name this dns.bat. Yes, we want to change it. And I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to go to edit. And right now I'm going to pause the video right now while I type in the DNS settings that are required for this. So hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is what I wrote right here. So let's kind of go over what this batch script is doing. So the first thing that I write is add echo off. Okay, so basically, again, all batch scripts are just command line functions, or all of this executes in the command line, or our CMD prompt. So we want to be able to take this. So then the next thing so basically we don't want, with the at echo off, we don't want to really display anything. So with the at echo off, basically a black box will pop up and then it goes away really quick and none of the commands show up. So that's what we want. That's why we type that in. Then if you kind of remember, NetSH interface is our Open Network and Sharing Center. That's our adapter setting right there. And then IPv4. So if you remember how we did this, we went to Properties and then IPv4 right there. And then we set DNS, set the DNS right there. And we have a local area connection. And I'm actually going to use we're not going to, because right now it's pointed to 192.168.86.135, which is our malicious server that we set up. Okay, we're gonna create a program in here that corrects DNS settings and forwards us to a proper DNS website. So this one, 8. We're gonna have it go to 8.8.8.8, which is Google's DNS server. So let's just look at this. So if I go to, I can't use Google right now because just totally not working. By the way, if I try to like Google something right here, okay, Firefox's Firefox by default uses Google, and it's going to try to do like a Google search right there. But because this isn't a website that's hosted on this server, it's just going to pop up with nothing for me right now. So I got to use Bing for my searches, but 8.8.8.8. Okay, so 8.8.8.8 is Google's DNS. Okay, and they have two addresses. Their primary is 8.8.8.8, and their secondary is 8.8.4.4. So, why would you want to use these? Well, number one, if we just change this to use the default, because that is an option on here. Let's bring this up. If we just change this to obtain the DNS server automatically, either it's going to use, like if you're on a company or like in a school, you're going to use the DNS server that's provided by the company or school, or if you're at home, you're going to use the DNS server that's provided by your internet service provider. So a lot of times those servers are slow, and a lot of times, like your internet service provider, Comcast has been known to redirect certain websites to their website so that they are able, and then they put their own advertisements on there and they're able to generate revenue. Again, for them to do that, that's completely legitimate, although it's kind of shady, and they're obviously just trying to manipulate you. Also, Comcast DNS servers have been known to go down from time to time, whereas I've been using Google's DNS servers for a long time and I've never had any issues with those. So Google's DNS server is super quick and you know that you're going to get legitimate websites from them. So that's 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. If you don't trust Google, there's OpenDNS, which is 1.1.1.1. Okay, and OpenDNS, it's supposed to be like, or it's hosted on Cloudflare, 1.1.1.1. It's supposed to be even faster than Google. Here's an article all about it. So it's supposed to be even faster than Google's DNS servers, and it's supposed to protect your privacy. So 1.1.1.1 is that IP address, and then the secondary address is 1.0.0.1 is the secondary address. We could use that too. I'm going to use Google. So we wrote our batch script right here that changes that information. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this right now. Click OK and close out of this. Okay, we want to just save this. So now one thing that's to note is in order to modify those DNS settings, you have to have administrative privileges. So that means that we would have to run this batch script as an administrator. So if you were embedding this into like a Trojan horse or embedding this program, and we did a Trojan horse lab where we had a legitimate program and then we wrote a virus and then we embedded the two together. So if you were going to embed this into a Trojan horse, or even like just have a legitimate program that changed the DNS settings to 8.8.8.8, which is, you know, a legitimate DNS server, you have to have that program run with administrative privileges. So in order to run this batch script as an administrator, we right click on it, we click on run as administrator, hit yes. Again, that black box popped up right there, but if you notice you didn't see anything typed on there, that's because our first line was add echo off, so it doesn't really show anything run on there. But now, okay, if you remember before, Google didn't work. If I go to my network and sharing settings, change adapter settings, right click on here, go to properties, go to my TCP IPv4 and I go to properties. Notice now my DNS settings have changed to 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. And now if I go to this and I go to google.com, okay, now it legitimately works. And remember when I typed something in here before, it didn't search at all. Now it searches just fine. So I felt like rather than writing a malicious script that sent somebody to our bogus DNS server being hosted right there, let's write a clean script that if somebody is having weird DNS settings, you could just run this script on their computer and it should fix their DNS settings for them. So anyway, that's it for this. In this lab, hopefully you learned how to write a quick batch script that modifies DNS settings, and hopefully you learned two good DNS servers that you should use. Google's DNS server, which their IP address is 8.8.8.8, and their secondary is 8.8.4.4, and then there's OpenDNS, which is hosted by Cloudflare. Sometimes it's called Cloudflare DNS, sometimes it's called OpenDNS, but that IP address is 1.1.1.1, and the secondary address is 1.0.0.1. So anyway, use those at home. It's super fast, super quick, and those are really good DNS servers. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.